All right, we are live. Let's make sure that we are live on Instagram. Also, give me 1 second here, folks. And we are live on Instagram as well. All right, we're live on YouTube, Instagram, X. Rumble is giving me trouble. We'll get that up at some point. So we will get that going soon as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those who are new, my name is Joshua Fontanilla. I started these live streams, or I started a new podcast show a couple weeks ago, and then things got in the way, as such is life. But I'm restarting again. And so, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go into the daily news. And I watch the news so you don't have to, is the idea here. I have a bunch of stuff to discover. What you see on my screen is my X bookmarks. So, similar to any of you who used to listen to Rush Limbaugh back in the day, he would come and he would have a stack. Well, I have bookmarks in X. I'll sip my tea here for a second. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be posting these they'll go live, and then I will also post them as podcasts as well. So you'll get the audio. So for those who are listening to the podcast, you're not going to see what's on my screen, obviously. But never to fear, I will explain what's going on. What else? So this show, we're going to be discussing prophecy and politics is what I like to say. We discuss religion and politics, the things you are not supposed to discuss, which to me, that's the stuff that's the only interesting things, right? Small talk is boring. Nobody cares about your hobbies. Let's discuss what's going on in the world. Let's get into the deep stuff. I'm sorry, that's just how I am. And if you follow myself and my wife, you'll know that we are both like that. We're just kind of intense people. By the way, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I think we got all the pleasantries out of the way. So let's get into this. Now, I am going to go through this stack. I have a ton of just news sources here and things that are going on in the news that some of them that are common knowledge, and some of them, I'm pretty good at finding these stories that people have not heard yet and bringing them to light. So we're just going to go through some of these. I'm obviously not going to go through everything, and the things that catch my attention are the things we will discuss. And some of these things I put on my feed just as a reminder to me. So if I skip some things, why is that on the feed? I just saved it because I thought it was interesting. I don't necessarily want to talk about it. so I'm going to discuss the things that I do think are interesting. All right, should I start with the bad news? It's all bad news usually. No, there is good news. Let me start off by discussing. I have kind of two ideas in my mind right now. There's two conflicting, different, like warring ideas or takes on what's going on in the world today. And one of them is positive and one of them is negative. Trump just got elected. January 20th can't come quickly enough. Biden's a train wreck. I have to remind myself to be careful the way I say these things because I'm on YouTube and I don't want to get censored, and Instagram and all that. But Biden, as we speak, or his handlers, the swamp, whoever it is that's actually running this country, is trying to force us into World War III right before Trump gets in office. So January 20th can't come quickly enough. And on the one hand, I feel this great optimism about what's going to happen with Trump, and not only just Trump, but just kind of this MAGA movement in general. What's going to happen, the direction that the country is headed, because I do think that we are at a tipping point where America is getting away from the craziness, and we're heading towards a time where the right and whatever you want to call it, MAGA, the grassroots conservative movement is spreading not only in America, but around the world. I do think we are at that time. We're seeing the beginning of it. I think we've been lied to for a very long time about what is going on and really the makeup of this country. I think we've been lied to for a very long time that this country is 50-50 and every election is on a razor edge of who's going to win. And if you look at the results of the elections, it does kind of look like that. But I honestly don't think that that's the reality. I think the reality is that we are a vastly conservative, dominant country, and we just have not seen that being reflected in our elections in recent years. Well, in a very long time. But I think what we're going to start seeing more and more, because of the fantastic job that Trump and his team did during the last election, we're going to start seeing more and more that this country is not even close to 50-50. It is a conservative country. And not only here, but we're going to see that around the world. The vast majority of people are not interested in the insanity that comes from the left. They're just not. And so we're starting to see this backlash in America and worldwide. And we'll see that reflected in some of these news stories. So that's the one side. That's the optimistic side that I have going on. The other side of me right now, and my general take on what's going on in the world, is that the swamp is going to fight back. And there's going to be, let me say it this way. When it comes to Trump coming into office and his agenda, don't set your expectations too high. Don't set them too high. That's it's the pessimistic side of me, right? And we'll explain this. So okay, let's get into some of these news stories. This is Dr. Janet Neshwat. How do you pronounce that? So she's recently been appointed, what is she, Surgeon General? Trump has promoted her to a cabinet level position, I believe Surgeon General. You know, there's head of the FDA, head of the, there's so many federal bureaucracies. Which one did RFK Jr. get? It's like head of the, it's not National Institutes of Health. It's on the tip of my tongue. National. There's too many agencies. It's another health agency out of like 50. And anyway, so he's the stuff that he's proposing sounds pretty good. Now on the other extreme, and that's kind of a good introduction to her, is Janet Neshwat. And she is a train wreck. She's probably the worst of Trump's appointees. And here she is arguing against the pro-life position. And it's standard. It's like if you wanted to just quote MSNBC, this is the kind of stuff that you would say. So here she is. She says, quote, "As a doctor, I'm concerned for safety. Are we going to see an uprising in back alley abortions? Young teenagers involuntarily hurt themselves." How do you involuntarily hurt yourself? Anyway, trying to self-abort their fetuses, note the language there, out of fear of not having alternatives. Let me see if I can get this audio to work. I haven't tried this. We're gonna try this out. You guys can let me know if this works. Okay. You guys can let me know if that audio worked. I'll give it a try. And it sounded like I can hear it on my end, and it should come through on your end. So, train wreck. She's a train wreck. And there's a couple of appointees like this. And this is in light of the fact, or, in the same breath of the fact that Matt Gaetz had to drop out. Had to, I don't know, why did he? It's a good question. And then you have, other pushback. So here's Republican, and I say Republican very loosely, James Lankford, saying he's not too sure about Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know if we can confirm her. I don't know. She might be too crazy. Did she pass the federal FBI background check? Because we know the FBI is squeaky clean and everyone must be approved by them, right? I'm sarcasm alert. So you're starting to see this pushback. Matt Gaetz drops out, and then you start to see some of these more um, um, swamp type of appointments coming from Trump. Now, let me be very careful and not be a doomer about this, because I don't think I'm not being completely doomery on Trump. Let me give you the bright side. I mean, people like Tulsi, RFK Jr., they're going to bring radical change. The Doge stuff, which I think is a big deal, Elon Musk and Vivek, that if they could do half of what they're talking about, it will be fantastic for this country. And the majority of Trump's appointees that he's the vast majority that I've seen, from what I can tell, are solid. I mean, you talk about the guy who's going to be the appointee for. I think I have that one. The guy who's going to be the appointee for Homeland Security. Here he is. Here he is. So border czar Tom Homan, and he says this is in response to the Denver Mayor Johnson saying that that he is willing to go to jail to stop illegals from being deported out of his city. So he is going to block the feds. Somehow, I don't know, stand in the way like it's some kind of, who's Greta Thunberg. He's going to stand in front of them like Greta Thunberg and get his little, or AOC pretending to be arrested. Remember when she put her hands behind her back with no handcuffs and pretend to be arrested? So the Denver mayor is going to try and do one of these stunts. When Trump's feds come down to kick the illegals out of his city and remove all the gang members. Oh no, the Denver mayor is going to stop that from happening. There is no way you are going to remove these peaceful gang members. So and then Tom Homan, correct me if I'm saying his name wrong, is Trump's border czar, and this guy is just, I mean, he's based as based can be. And his response is that we agree on one thing. The Denver mayor is willing to go to jail, and I'm willing to put him there. So this guy is based. So don't misunderstand me. I think generally Trump's cabinet appointees are guys like this guy. Just fantastic picks who will do a great job if and when they get put in into their cabinet positions. The question is if they'll be put in there. And that was one of the questions that I was wondering when Matt Gaetz dropped out. See, here's what doesn't make sense to me about Matt Gaetz dropping out. We were told for weeks that it would be recess appointments, that Trump is going to put the most based people in there. And if the swamp Senate doesn't like it, they can pound sand because Trump's going to just do recess appointments. In fact, he may even use the constitutional powers to demand that all of Congress go on recess, which he has the power to do, put his people in without any Senate approval, and then just, too bad, deal with it. If he was willing to do that, why did Matt Gaetz have to drop out? This is what I don't understand. And the reports that came out later was that Matt Gaetz was only one vote short of getting there. I don't understand if it's that close, why you can't just do a recess appointment. Nevertheless, Matt Gaetz dropped off, so that makes me think, well, maybe Trump's going to try and just do the, trying to get people approved by the Senate. And if that's the case, I'm starting to wonder, are people like Tom Homan going to actually get into office? Is he going to actually be the border czar? Or is he going to get blocked by the swamp? What we can't have is 6 months, 9 months, a year of the Senate doing confirmation hearings and, picking apart everything about these people's lives and, let's air all this dirty laundry and, all these things that aren't even true, just a bunch of allegations to make them look bad. We've already seen that happen with Trump's, the guy who's supposed to lead the Pentagon. I forget his name. It's like Negseth or something like that. I can see the letters, Hegmeth or something. I don't know. You guys know who I'm talking about. They're trying to go after him, and they're trying, the usual stuff. He did this, that, and the other. And these accusations, it's always some lady from 50 years ago, right? Says that he, made kissy eyes at her at a bar or something. I don't know the details. I'm mocking the situation because that's what they do. They just make those kind of things up. So are we going to see that for 6 months? Are we going to have that circus? Because Trump only has a good 2 years. And that's one of the important things to keep in mind here. Trump only has a good 2 years to get the most radical parts of his agenda in. After 2 years, the last 2 years of his presidency, he's probably going to be only able to do moderate stuff. The first 2 years is when you get the radical things done. Why is that? Why do I say Trump only has 2 years? Well, if you are a student of history, you know that in midterm elections, meaning the election that is not the presidential election, but the one in the middle, the midterm, between presidential elections, because we have an election here every 2 years. So in 2 years, there will be a midterm election. And historically speaking, the party that is in power at the time of the midterms loses Congress. Why? Because everyone's always disappointed with what their party did in the last 2 years. It happens every time. Everyone's disappointed. Whoever's in power is the bad guys, and it swings to the other side. It's just historically happened. And so maybe it won't happen. I don't know. But if you wanted to be a betting man, I would say Trump has about 2 years, and then the Republicans will probably lose Congress, or maybe half of Congress, or maybe just a few seats so they have less of a majority. Chances are, if you wanted to bet your money, Trump only has 2 years to use this trifecta that he has right now. The mandate that he has right now, where Republicans run all 3 branches of government, and there is at least somewhat of a cushion, like in the Senate, they have a few votes of a cushion. It's not like a 60 vote majority or anything, but they have a little bit of a cushion. They're probably going to lose some of that cushion, or lose one or both houses of Congress altogether, or chambers of Congress altogether. So Trump has 2 years. Well, what if we waste half of that time with Senate confirmation? So he can't even get the stuff done that he wants to get done because he's trying to get people confirmed through the Senate, and the Senate's full of a bunch of swamp creatures. Is that what we're going to see? I don't know. I hope not. I would rather see recess appointments on the first week, put everyone Trump wants in his cabinet in place, and let's get moving. But the fact that Matt Gaetz dropped out makes me think recess appointments are probably not going to happen. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, why else would Trump do this? Maybe Matt Gaetz has something else. We have seen. Now, let me be positive. So let's be positive about this. And I'll have to search through my stack to find this. Matt Gaetz did, because I don't want to just be negative here, Matt Gaetz did hint that perhaps he has another position that he's going to take, which could be an even better position than oh, this is an interesting story. Yeah, we'll have to come back to that. You can see this on the screen. Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. I'm going to be very careful about the way I say this because I'm on YouTube and Instagram. I'm going to read this as, and let me preface it by saying this is somebody's opinion. I don't know if this is true. I haven't researched this. You know what? I'm not even going to say it. You guys can read the screen. Right there. Right there. You see that? Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer became a federal judge, and that same judge signed off on the Mar-a-Lago search warrant. That's what this person says. I don't know. I'll research it. I don't know. Don't get mad at me, fact checkers. I just read it. Anyway, okay, so going back to Matt Gaetz. He withdrew himself as Attorney General, but there is a possibility that he could be special counsel, that he could be appointed to be the special counsel. Basically, think of it this way. The Senate swamp creatures on the right who said, no, 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 we don't like you, Matt Gaetz. We interviewed you. We don't like you. What we could have happen is we turn around and have Matt Gaetz investigating some of those same people for some of the crimes that they've been doing the last few years. That would be a nice turn. And you do not need Senate confirmation for special counsel. Interesting. Matt Gaetz seemed to hint that on Twitter, on X. All right, here is the new U.S. Attorney, Surgeon General Janet Naiswitz. Again, probably the worst of Trump's appointees. He has other ones that are very good. She's bad, and I hope her name gets withdrawn. Here she is endorsing the jabbies. Okay, the jabbies. Here she is. Also, her sister, top brass at the NSA, member of the World Economic Forum, WEF, Council on Foreign Relations, and Atlantic Council. Doesn't sound good. That does not sound good. This is interesting. The number of words, have you guys seen this? The number of words spoken by each Supreme Court justice in the 2024 term. As of, this was November 15th. It's been updated recently. Very interesting, right? Look at this. I have seen one person say that there is an inverse relationship between the IQ of these judges and the words that they speak. So, Justice Jackson is by far the leader here. It's not even close. She likes to talk. And the one on the one who speaks the least is Thomas. Good old Clarence Thomas. We love Clarence Thomas. Few words, but well spoken. And it's I mean, Sotomayor, she's up there. Kagan, she's up there. It's funny. 3 of the 4 women on the court are the 3 ones who talk the most on the court. The only exception here is Barrett. That's interesting. And of the men, it's just the men are all they're not the talkers. They are not the lead talkers, except Gorsuch. He's giving Sotomayor a run for her money. Anyway, just thought that was interesting. All right, what else do we have? This is the other thing that's bad about if you're questioning whether or not, me questioning this new Surgeon General is bad. Here she is on masks in schools and she's pushing that. But on top of that, all those things I think were bad enough. But let's be honest. A lot of people got those things wrong back then. A lot of politicians got those things wrong. What I think is more concerning is that she pushed for censorship, social media censorship of those who disagreed on these policies. That to me is the most concerning out of all of her positions. I don't trust her. And let me say this. Again, most of Trump's appointees, I think, are fantastic for the positions they're in. Tulsi Gabbard, I think she'll do a great job. Where's she going? DHS? Department of Homeland Security. RFK, I think he's going to do great. Homan, which we've already talked about as the border czar, fantastic. Even the lady who's going to replace Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, I forget her name off the top of my head. She also seems fantastic. She seems like she might be even better than Matt Gaetz. Not as well known of a name, but from what I can see from the meltdown from the mainstream media, she's even more effective than he is. And so she might be even better. Matt Gaetz is a bit of a firebrand, a bit of a wild card, which can be good, but it can be bad sometimes when you're dealing with bureaucracy and you're having to navigate the waters of dealing with people. And I don't say that as a criticism because hey, I'm the same way. I'm a firebrand and sometimes I don't work well with others. It's just how it is, but it is what it is. But the AG that took his place is apparently very effective. She can get things done. But so that being said, the majority of Trump's appointees look fantastic. This one looks horrible. But if you want to look on the bright side of it, you could say, look, he has all these other really based, even in the health sphere. There's like two or three different appointees of federal agencies that deal with health that Trump has put in there, and the majority of them are great. And then you have this one Surgeon General who is awful. She's just awful. And so, are we going to see is if you wanted to look at this in a positive way, is it just like, all right, here's your one little, swamp creature, but I don't know. What does Surgeon General even do? Do we even need a Surgeon General? It may be one of those things like here's a hat tip to another opinion, because if you know Trump likes to surround himself with people of different opinions, various opinions. So yeah, on the one hand, you could argue that that's a good thing to do, to have different opinions around you. You listen to both, but he definitely doesn't have the swamp as the majority of his picks. I'm not crazy about Marco Rubio. He's probably second for, bad picks, but I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. I'm not going to write the book on it yet. Rubio's changed a lot of his positions. We'll see. We'll see. Mitch McConnell is staying in very high ranking and important positions. So the new Senate Majority Leader has put former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell in charge of two key committees in Congress. And so he's going to be in charge of, I believe it's the Rules Committee. I forget the other one, which is really important stuff, because the Rules Committee is going to decide things like recess appointments. Is Mitch McConnell going to allow a recess appointment to put in cabinet members that he doesn't like from Trump? I doubt it. So this is not good news, but we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Again, we've got 2 years. Oh, here it is. Here is I don't want to just keep being negative here, but here it is in case you didn't believe me. Trump's pick for Surgeon General, praising Facebook for censoring anti-jab information, adding that she will hope and pray other social media companies do the same. Okay, let's move on. I don't want to be too negative here. Transgender police officers. I'm just reading the Telegraph. So I'm just reading the headline. Censors and fact checkers. I'm just reading the headline. So they will be able to, these officers will be able to strip search women under new guidance issued by the British Transport Police. I am not even going to comment anymore on this, because if I do, I will get banned. You guys can imagine how I feel about this. Outrageous. Outrageous. When are the people of Great Britain, of the UK, of England going to step up? We've seen some good signs. Let me see. Here's some. Here we go. General election petition. So is Britain standing back up against these things? General election petition. Britain has destroyed the $200,000 target within 6 hours. Okay, what is this? So if you're like me and you don't fully understand how British politics works, they can't, basically this is, from what I understand, a recall petition. So they had their election, and the Labour Party, which, is crazy, radical, leftist stuff, bunch of, what we'd call woke nonsense in Great Britain, is in power. And it's very complicated in Great Britain, because they do these coalition governments where one group has some power and the other group has another power, and they have to get together and form a government and kind of rule by consensus and all this kind of, it's complicated. They're Brits. They do, they measure things in meters. It makes no sense. Right? I'm joking, but basically what happened is the people there can call for a new election, a new general election. If they don't like what's going on, if there's enough people who sign a petition, they can say, you know what, we made a mistake in the last election. Let's do it again. Basically, this is don't get me if you're from Britain and you're that's not specifically the details, but that's basically how it works, right? So the target was 200,000 vote or people to sign the petition within 2 hours. And they smashed that. The latest numbers I've heard, well over a million. I think I have another article on that here in my stack, in my digital stack of news. Well over a million. So they are going to get another election, and you're going to see you're going to see them get trounced. They're going to get destroyed. Let's see here, UK believe. No, that's not it. Where's the article? Nah, 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 nah. Blah blah blah. Hold on, I'm looking for it. So they're going to get a new election in Great Britain, you know, and I'll be honest. Sometimes the bookmarks on X don't work perfectly. You save the bookmarks and it's not there. So I don't see it here. I don't see my bookmark, but basically they're going to get a new election in Britain. So are the people fighting back a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, here's one. Now this makes me mad. All right. For those who don't know, I am of Mexican and Puerto Rican and Irish descent. I was raised in a Mexican community. I'm from California originally. We live in Florida now. We fled that socialist hellhole. Sorry for those of you who are still in California. It's great Mexican food and it's a beautiful place, but I can't live around all those people. They are, I just can't deal with all the brainwash nonsense. I'm sorry. We would walk around down the street and people would cross the road to get away from you and put their masks over their face, and people stopped saying hi to you. Hey, maybe it's the area that I lived in. Don't get mad at me if you're still in California, but I just couldn't do it anymore. We can visit there for a few days at a time. I will tell you, the last time we went there with my new puppy of a dog, the cutest dog you've ever seen as a puppy. And in Florida, we walk around with him and he gets all this attention. Everyone loves him. We go to California. Within a week, we had 2 different people, random strangers on the streets, ask me if my dog had all his shots. Just out of nowhere. Who are you people? Who does that? Who just asks a random stranger that? None of your business. I can't. The Mexican food's great. It's not worth it. So we left. We're not in California anymore. But I came from a Mexican community. I was raised in a Chicano community from Salinas, California. That's where I taught. That's where I taught public school before Collie and I left public school, left our careers, and started our own online school. If you need an online school, if you need to pull your kids out of public school, we can help you. Go to thinkexodus.org, thinkexodus.org. And our school is called Exodus Institute. We have a fully accredited K through 12 program, online, private school. And then we also, separate, it's not the accredited one, it's a separate program. We also have a enrichment courses that my wife and I teach. That program is only $20 a month. It's not the same as the fully accredited K through 12 thing. You're not going to get that for $20 a month. It's not that cheap. It is very inexpensive, but it's not that cheap. But the separate supplemental program are lessons that me and my wife teach, on-demand video lessons for basically we debunk the woke nonsense that kids get in school. So if you want that, that can also be found on our website. Or you can go directly to that program. It's called Young Patriots Academy, youngpatriotsacademy.com, and we debunk the woke nonsense on the left. But all that being said, I'm from California, and I'm from a Mexican community. And I grew up around farm workers and a Mexican town, right? Like my city where I'm from is 90% Mexican, right? And so even though I have Puerto Rican and Irish heritage, I was just raised in a Mexican community. That's just how I was raised. Okay. So when I see this stuff, and this is a liberal take on the screen right now, all these liberals are coming out on X right now, all these champagne liberals, and they're saying, look, if you're going to deport the illegals, who's going to mow your lawns? Who's going to clean your house? Who's going to, do your gardening repairs and all this stuff? I see this stuff and it just pisses me off. Because why is it? I mean, first of all, these people are so detached from reality. The average American does these things themselves. The average American mows their own lawns and cleans their own house. This is not the average American does all these things, basic little home repairs, or painting indoors in your house. You need to repaint a room a different color. So the average American's doing that stuff themselves. These are champagne liberals who have 50 maids or whatever it is, and so they're just like, who's going to raise your kids? You're going to have to raise them yourselves instead of having nannies. And they're so detached from reality of the average American that they don't realize that the average American is doing these things themselves already. But these people want a permanent underclass of Mexicans or whoever, Hondurans or whoever. Just send me a brownie to have do my work for me. That's what these champagne liberals are thinking. Send me one of these minorities and have them do all the menial labor for me. That's how these people, and so they talk to you as if you're the same way. You're going to mow your own lawn? That's crazy, right? Why is it that Mexicans have to be the permanent underclass in this country? These people, these liberals, these Democrats are talking in the same way that Democrats in the 1800s spoke about slavery. Who's going to pick the cotton? It's so obvious. If you had half a brain and half a little bit of knowledge of history, you would recognize this stuff and see how extremely offensive this is and racist this is. Who's going to clean your toilet? Right? They want my people to be the permanent toilet cleaners for the country. That stuff pisses me off. All right. There's a tangent. What else is going on in the news? Arizona finally finished counting their votes yesterday. 20 days after the election. 20 days after. Trump won. Now listen to this. Trump won Arizona by 5.5%, making it the reddest of the 7 swing states. Arizona, the one that Fox called 4 years ago, like very early in the day. They just, Arizona goes for Biden. Yeah, that Arizona. All of a sudden, doesn't that sound weird? All of a sudden now, it's the reddest of all of the swing states. So give you an idea, 5.5%, sorry. Here it is. Here it is on the right. 5.5% for Arizona puts it in a similar category to Minnesota. And we're talking about the margin of victory, right? Kamala won Minnesota by 4 points. She won Virginia by 5 points. New Mexico by 6 points, and New Jersey by 6 points. So think of that. Arizona is about as red as New Jersey is blue. Let that rattle around in your brain for a second. That's crazy. I mean, that is wild. And yet that's the reality. That's how red Arizona is. And let me, because I was a little negative on some of the Trump picks before. So let me sing some praises here and be positive. Trump's, Laura Trump, his team at the RNC that he put in charge of the RNC, which a lot of people complained about when it happened. Oh, we have, Laura Trump is running the RNC. And so it's just all, nepotism and Trump's cronies and Trump's, buddies. They're all running everything. And this is going to fail. She did a fantastic job uh, running the RNC and being in charge of basically the lawfare to make sure that there were no shenanigans. Let me be careful the way I say this on YouTube. No shenanigans going on with the election. And so we would see things during the election where it was like, hey, this was happening. It would pop, a news story would pop up, and the same day she would tweet about it. Well, we got our lawyers on it, and sometimes it was the same day they would have a case. Judge decided, boom, shut it down. And so they were knocking down all these attempts at shenanigans in real time. They did a fantastic job. And when that is done, these are the results. You see Arizona about as red as New Jersey is blue. And that's what I mean by this idea that the country is a lot redder than I think it is, or that we've been told. Sorry, reword that. I'll come back to that in a second because I think that's a interesting point, how red this country actually is. Here's now again, I need to be careful even reading this headline. This is from the New York Post. Because of the censors, I'm just reading, just quoting here. Fact checkers and censors, I'm just quoting. New York Post, quote, judge affirms Missouri ban on transgender surgeries for minors, end quote. I mean, I won't dance on the in the screen here. I'll spare you guys. I'm gonna watch me dance here, but that's how happy this news makes me. This kind of stuff. We're starting to see the pushback coming, because the world does not want the majority of what the left has to offer. We don't want it. We don't want it. And so you're starting to see the pushback. Scott Jennings pointed out, so this is on CNN. This is great. What happened was a few days ago, maybe it was yesterday even. It was very recently. CNN had a story talking about how Twitter X reflects the general population, the mix of liberal and Democrat views in the general population of the country better than traditional media. You go on to traditional media and you do a poll of their reporters and their journalists, and I say journalists loosely, and you will see that 80-90% are Democrats. It's not even close to reflecting the general population of the American public. But you go on X and it's pretty close to 50-50, or it might swing a little one direction or the other, but it's far more balanced than traditional media, than the mainstream media. So they ran that story a few days ago on CNN. Now, Scott Jennings goes out there and he pointed this out on CNN, that X is more ideologically balanced after Elon Musk bought the platform. Carrie Champion, which I don't even know who she is. I don't watch CNN. The clips are enough for me. Apparently, she's the host of one of these nonsense shows. And Audie Cornish asked what the source was for that reporting. So where do you get this idea that X is balanced? CNN. It's from you guys. You guys read this story just a few days ago. And what was her response? It's not accurate, and you know it. Okay, so your own CNN source is not accurate. It's just these people, man. They all right. Okay, here's a very interesting. This is a great story. A great point. It's going to take me a second to dig into this on Big Ag. First, another one showing how much Trump won these races. So Trump won Texas by 13.7 points, percentage points, right? Kamala won New York by 11.8 points. So New York was closer than Texas. I've said it earlier, I'll say it again. The country is more red than we realize. The country is more conservative than we realize. In the next presidential election, New Jersey might go New Jersey might go red. New Jersey might go Republican. It's crazy to say, but it is definitely a possibility. There are some of these northeastern states that are closer than you'd think. That if Republicans actually, use the tactics of Scott Pressler and went in there and did the work, they could flip some of these blue states to the point where Democrats may not win another election for a presidential election for a long time, which is crazy to say because just a few years ago, it seemed like their control was so complete that you'd say the opposite. All right, let's dig into this. Let's dig into this. This is an interesting one. Okay, so there's a news story here that Trump is going to apply tariffs to Mexico and Canada for not just for no reason, but because of the fact that they are flooding the country with allowing all these drugs and illegals to come into the country. So in retaliation, Trump's going to raise tariffs on all their products, or he is threatening to, unless they do something about it. That was a news story that just came out within the last couple of days. Basically, Trump has called Mexico, the Mexican president, socialist, by the way, which is just strange. A female Jewish woman socialist, woman, female, said that twice, is elected president. Which, by the way, did you know that like the majority of the candidates for president in Mexico were assassinated? The cartels were just, picking them off left and right. And so she's one of the few who did not get picked off. So what does that say about her? That the cartels said, nah, she can run. Mexican politics is completely ran by the cartels. And somebody should do a study one of these days. Somebody should do an investigative dig into the amount of blue border state and even red border state like cities and counties, but blue especially like California. How many of the cities and counties in California are controlled by the same cartels that control the politics in Mexico? How many of those counties and cities have people running the city council and the mayorship and so forth that are being bankrolled or threatened, somehow controlled by the cartels and gangs connected to the cartels? I tell you again, I'm from Salinas, California. If somebody wants to go and dig into that, because I don't have any factual, okay, I can prove it this way, but just being from that town, which is a Mexican, 90% Mexican community town in California, I can tell you the politics there is so corrupt, and I just know that the cartels run that city, and they do it through. I mean, the amount of businesses that are just fronts for cartels. All right, I'll stop there. But it's a fascinating subject, right? Okay, so that's getting a little bit of a tangent, but Trump has come out and threatened Mexico and said, we're going to raise a tariff on you. So this story came out a couple days ago. It's like 25% tariff. Anything that comes from Mexico, we're going to charge a bunch, and it's going to cripple your country. And so you better get in line on closing the border, helping to close the border and stopping all these fentanyl and all this crap coming in and poisoning our country, right? Now, there are some stories coming out lately that Mexico is going to retaliate to add their own tariff onto American goods. So this is the story here on the right. Just in Mexico suggests it will retaliate against Trump's tariffs with their own tariff on American goods. Now, I commented on this, and here's my thought. What do we send to Mexico? First of all, think about this. What do we send to Mexico? Are we like producing a bunch of, manufactured goods that we're sending there, like how China sends to us? No, that's not how it works. I mean, there's some things that we produce here. Don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, that's not how it works. Things are produced in Mexico and then sent here. The same is true from China. China produces things. They make cars. They make blah blah blah, whatever. They make our cell phones. They make everything. Whatever you get. You go to Costco and all the stuff that's in 15,000 plastic packages, and it takes jaws of life to open the package. Why? Because they're shipping it from China, and it needs to be on a boat for however many hours to be bouncing around in that boat. So it has to have all this packaging, right? So all your stuff that you're about to get from Christmas, and don't get me wrong, I'm gonna get some stuff for Christmas too. I'm not attacking, but I'm just saying that stuff is from China, Mexico, all these other countries. They are shipping to us their stuff. So what are they going to tariff? What are they going to threaten to put a tariff on of American goods going back to Mexico? I'll tell you. Because there's really only one major category of things that we send to other countries. You know what it is? It's agricultural products. That's it. That's all we send to other countries. Basically. I mean, there's some small exceptions, but that's basically it. We send farm goods, wheat and soy, whatever, the byproducts from all those things, and corn, right? Big ag products, some beef, things like that, right? We send that kind of stuff to other countries. Which, if you know history, you would know that that's not a good sign, because that is the export profile of a poor developing country that only sends its farm goods. The advanced rich countries produce stuff and ship it to the poor countries, and then the poor countries send their farm goods. That's how it used to work, and now that's what we do. So we're enriching other countries by acting like this, but that's another question. So why is it that we only send agricultural products? I'll tell you why. Besides the fact that we have horrible trade agreements with these countries, and we're not building our products here in America anymore, and Trump's trying to fix that with tariffs. I hope he does, because that would be huge. It's maybe one of the most important things that can be done to fix not only this country's economy, but also the family life, right? When you can have a man get out of high school and with a high school diploma be able to find a job in a factory where he can stay home and on one income raise a family. That's how it used to be in this country. And it was like that because of manufacturing jobs. If we can go back to that, do you realize how many other things that would solve? The problem of teen crime and teen pregnancy and all that stuff that would go away if a man was, if mothers were able to stay home and raise the kids, and the dad was able to be able to afford a family, so men aren't just having kids and running away. Do you realize how many problems this would solve? It's huge. But why is it that we only send agricultural products to Mexico? The reason why is because we subsidize those products. Your tax dollars pay for cheap corn. Your tax dollars pay for cheap corn. Corn is cheap because you are paying giant agricultural companies, which are often the same companies that are producing all the pesticides. And then those same companies turn around and they also create a lot of your cleaning products and a lot of the stuff that you're using as shampoos and toothpaste and all these kind of chemical products. They're creating all this kind of stuff. It's the same conglomerate, ginormous, international, massive corporations. Your tax dollars are giving them corporate welfare to make these products cheap, to make it so that corn is so cheap that they have extra hydrogenated, you know, this, that, and the other oils, and they have what is it? High fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is cheap and it's in your soda because your tax dollars are paying big ag. And where do those tax dollars come from? It comes from something called the Farm Bill. It's something that they pass like every year, every couple years. There's a new Farm Bill, and it's a big, giant corporate welfare giveaway to big ag. And you know why we have that? Because states like Iowa, I'm not only picking on Iowa, but it's a big one. States like Iowa are completely ran by big ag. And so Republicans run those states and are completely paid off by big ag, and they in turn make sure that the farm bill gets passed. So here's how it works. The major employers in those areas and the big giant companies, agricultural companies in those states, they run the states because they're just the biggest, giant, most powerful people in the states, and they donate massive amounts of money to the candidates that they choose, and they run those candidates, largely Republican, right? Those are swamp rhinos, neocons. They get in office, and then they turn around and they vote for the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill gives them a ton of money to make sure that their products are subsidized by the federal government, by your tax dollars. And so corn ends up being so cheap that we have too much of it and we don't know what to do with it. So we put hydrogenated corn, what is it? High fructose corn syrup. We put it in everything because we have too much of it and we don't know what to do with it. And so you know what else we do? We send it to Mexico. Hey, Mexico, here's our excess corn and or whatever, wheat and soy and our basic, all these kind of things. Here you go, Mexico. We do not have any other use for this. We have too much of it. And so here you go, Mexico. And so that destroys Mexico's farming because they get undercut. We sell it cheaper than they can produce it in Mexico because we subsidize it with your tax dollars. And so their farmers can't compete. And so their farms get shut down. And where do the farm workers from Mexico go? Well, they're out of work now because their farms got shut down. Where do they go? They cross the border and they work in agriculture over here. So the whole thing happens because your tax dollars are paying for the Farm Bill. It's nonsense. And this gets to the root of so many problems in America. But good luck trying to stop the Farm Bill, because if you go after that, you're going after really big money in states like Iowa. And, you lose. I mean, you want to look at who is in charge in those states, and you want to lose that Republican Senate seat. Good luck fighting those guys. Good luck. It's pretty ugly, but that's how that ugly business works. And that is the only reason why a country like Mexico could even begin to threaten us with tariffs, because that's the only major products that we send to other countries. All right. This is a pretty good review, I think, of the news. Walmart becomes largest company to roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. These are happening all over the place now. These DEI programs are getting shut down. Let's see here. I think we will save the discussion of the world shifting to the right. We'll save that for another broadcast. But this has been a good good discussion of what's going on right now. Let's end with this. Let's end with this one because this is an interesting story. We'll end with this. California is targeting law enforcement. So now this is from Bill Wells. Let me put that. That's on the right here now. Mayor. So this is mayor of. Let's go and see who this is. Mayor of the city of El Cajon. So this is in California. So the mayor's come out and he's saying that the state of California, on the right hand on the screen here, he's saying that the state of California is threatening to take pensions from police officers and charge them with felonies if they comply with federal deportation laws. So we're starting to see the beginnings of the swamp's response to Trump coming into power and what they're going to do to fight his agenda. So they are apparent now. This is the mayor. So and he's coming out on X and he recorded a video on it. And so I'm assuming at this point that he's just not making this up. It's a mayor of a city. So that seems pretty credible to me. It's has not been reported in a lot of other places. So we will see what happens in the coming days. But if this is true, I mean, that's a lot of pressure that the state of California is willing to go through in order to stop the deportation of illegals. To threaten the police officers if they comply with federal deportation laws. So the local police, if they work at all with ICE and with immigration authorities, then those police officers can get charged with felonies and they'll take their pensions away. That's pretty extreme. On the one hand, I'm like, man, that is extreme. On the other hand, gosh, I wish that red state governors had this amount of backbone to stand up for what they believe in. Imagine what would happen if when the Jan 6ers were getting arrested, and the majority, the most of them got arrested here in Florida, here in the state of Florida. Imagine if DeSantis, which I think he's doing a great job as a governor, don't misunderstand me, but wouldn't it have been great if he said, look, this is clearly political. You guys are just going after the residents of my state. Our local authorities are not going to work with you. Our local police authorities are not going to work with the feds. This is wrong what you're doing. And maybe not as extreme as what California is saying, but had threatened in some way to say, hey, police, I'm demanding our local police not work with the feds on this. Just imagine if we had that kind of backbone that Democrats have, right? To protect our own residents as opposed to protecting illegals. All right. Signing off now. That's a good show for now. I didn't get to relate this back to prophecy, but it's a good discussion on the news, and we'll talk next time about the flow and the shift to the right that's happening in America and in the world, because I think that relates to prophecy. But like, share, subscribe. You'll find the podcast posted on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And thank you guys. We will see you next time.